as well. All right, let us begin. For those of you who are on time and early, it's I don't like to waste people's time and just to get things kicked in. No, probably get things started. I don't think kicked in is the right expression. Our presenter today, Greg Kettner, joins us from the other side of the world, which we will forgive him for. I met Greg probably 5 years or 6 years ago and have joined or enjoyed a few of his sessions over the years. And he's all about sharing happiness and helping us to work happy and stop chasing happiness. Greg's goal in life is to share his ideas of working happiness with as many millions of people as he can to change the way we think and really become happier in our lives. So Greg, it is the stage is all yours. I'll mute myself and shut up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for having me. I am living in the United States of America. Don't hold that against me. I am Canadian, so we are on the same level as far as that goes. But today, thank you for your time. And I just wanted to share with you over the next several minutes some things that I've learned over the past, I guess, 30 years of my career. I've been in sales. I've worked in sports. I did stand-up comedy for 8 years. And now I'm on a mission to help 1 million people work happy. I know I've gone through a lot in the last 5 years with COVID. I lost my job. I started doing this, but I've never been happier because I'm now following my passion and sharing what I've learned on happiness, the benefits of it, how to work happy, and if I'm having a rough day, how to restart my day. And also I touch a little bit on mental health and how we need to talk about it, because when we do, we can get the help that we need, and everybody deserves to live a happy and healthy life. One of my heroes once said, "Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always." And I have to remember this. I have it on my wall over here, but I have to remember this every time I go to the grocery store and there's an older gentleman, grandpa, paying for his groceries with change or a check, and I'm trying to get home to do the barbecue. I also have to remember this, to always be kind to other people, because we don't know what they're going through. Sometimes it's when people cuts me off in traffic and they wave at me with just one finger. So if there's one thing that you all take away today, other than about happiness and mental health, it's always be kind, because we never know what the other person is going through. And my first story today is I got to work with my hero, Robin Williams. This was about 15 years ago. And he really taught me the power of serving other people and allowing them to be happy, allowing them to smile, allowing them to laugh. And it was a Tuesday night. I had been doing stand-up comedy for about 6 months. So I had 5 minutes of fart and poop jokes. That's all I had. And it was a Tuesday night, and we were at a pub in Vancouver, Canada. There was a 7 o'clock show and a 9 o'clock show. The 7 o'clock show, which I was on because I was a rookie, there was 5 of us. There was a bartender, 1 wait staff, and 1 girlfriend. That was it. There was nobody in the bar to listen to us tell our jokes. We were brand new. Nobody had to pay to get in. But we were all trying to get better and better at our stand-up so that we could get on the 9 o'clock show. That's the show that had the crowds. That's the show that got paid. And that was the show that got you noticed within the community to get more stand-up comedy gigs. So again, there was nobody in the room. I was third on the bill that night, and halfway through my 5-minute set, the door opened up and in walked my hero, Robin Williams. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing stand-up comedy in front of my hero, and I couldn't believe it. He came in, sat down, grabbed a beer, and he started laughing at my silly jokes. So as I walked off stage, I wanted to connect with him, but I didn't want to be a fanboy and ask him for an autograph and overwhelm him and everything. So I decided to pretend that I had no idea who my hero was. And if you ever get to meet someone that you admire or is your hero, treat them like anybody else and they will love you forever. So that's what I did. I walked off stage, pretended that I didn't know who he was. I grabbed a beer myself. I sat down beside him, and we just started having a conversation. I asked him where he was from. He said, "I'm from San Francisco." I said, "Oh, what are you doing here in Vancouver?" He said, "Well, we're filming a movie. It was Night at the Museum." And I said, "Wow, that sounds like a fun job. What are you in catering, or do you hold the microphone? You the camera guy? What do you do?" And he looked at me very confused and wondering, how does this guy not know who I am? So I kept it together, and I asked him more questions. I said, "Well, what is it you do?" He goes, "Well, I'm actually an actor. I'm in this movie with Ben Stiller." And I was like, "Oh, I love Ben Stiller. I can't get enough of Ben Stiller." And it was really frustrating, Robin, that I didn't know who he was, or that's what he thought. So he told me he was in Good Will Hunting, Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, "Yeah, it's still not ringing a bell." So he's like, "Whatever." So we just started having a conversation. And then he said two things to me that I'll never forget. He said, number one, he said, "Greg, your set was really funny. Keep doing what you're doing. You've got a shot at this," which is, a pretty high compliment from your hero, Robin Williams. And then the other thing he said was, never or always make people laugh. Always make them smile when you're on stage, because you'll never know the difference that you might make in that person's life. You may never hear it. Sometimes you're lucky enough to hear it, and I've had that opportunity a couple of times. But he said, whatever you do, make people happy, and your life is going to be better. So we continued to have the conversation. I let him know who I was. And then it was time for the 9 o'clock show. And the person running the room came up to Robin and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to do some time if you want to." And Robin said, "Sure." So Robin got on stage at 10 o'clock, and he did 2.5 hours of some of the most amazing stand-up comedy I've ever heard. He was working on the Grammys that year. He was hosting the Grammys, so he was practicing his jokes for that, and it was brilliant. He did 2.5 hours, got off the stage, and I walked up to him and I said, "Thank you for your advice and thank you for your friendship." And I got a picture with him. This was a picture of him leaving the pub that night. He got on his bicycle and drove off into the sunset. And I heard what Robin Williams said that night, but I didn't understand until about 5 months later. I was running my own show at a hotel lobby bar, and there was about 30 people in the room. I was emceeing the event, so I was bringing up the comedians and talking to the crowd. 5 minutes into the event, father-son walked in and sat in the front row. They crossed their arms. They didn't look like they were having a good time, but they were at a comedy show. And I thought, and I remember what Robin Williams said. He says, "Always give the opportunity for people to laugh and have a good time." And so in my mind that night, I switched it, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I can to get these two guys to laugh. I can care about everybody else, but I want these two guys to laugh. And it started to work. By the end of the show, they were laughing and having a good time. And so I went up to them afterwards and I said, "Thank you for coming to the show. I run the room. How did you hear about the show?" And the dad thought for a second. He said, "Well, we've been walking past your show for the last 8 weeks. We're staying here in the hotel, my son and I. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so during the day, we go and take care of her to her appointments, make sure she's okay. And at night, we're so tired, we have dinner, we just go to sleep. We haven't had time to come to the show." And so, me being curious, I turned to the son. I said, "Well, how's mom doing?" It got really quiet, and the son started to cry, and he said, "Mom passed away this morning." So now there's three strangers, three grown men in a bar after a comedy show, hugging each other and crying. And then the dad said this, and this is what I realized what Robin Williams meant. The dad looked up at me and said, "Greg, thank you for making us laugh for the last half hour. It's the first time we felt somewhat normal in the last 8 weeks." And that's the power of laughter, and that's the power of being kind. I had no idea what those two people were going through, but for 30 minutes, it took their mind off of the loss of his wife, the loss of their mom or his mom. And for that 30 minutes, they were happy. It didn't take the pain away, but it got them through that. And so I always remember that night with Robin Williams when he said, "Keep making people laugh because you'll never know the difference." And I'm lucky that I got to see the difference. And so I want to encourage you, and every time I speak, I encourage people, take the time to say, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you really doing?" I've got time to talk, because we never know where those conversations are going to lead. And when we do that and we let our guard down and we're empathetic and we're understanding and we're caring and we can have conversations, I would love to see that father and son again. I probably never will. But the lesson I learned from that is when I gave them the opportunity to be happy, it made me happy as well too. And I think it's just so important that when, we are, with each other and out there and connecting and building relationships, is that we need to take time, we need to work on happiness, and we need to ask people how they're really doing. So I always like to interject humor when I talk, and I love this meme. I know a lot of you are in business, but I would hire this guy in a heartbeat, right? Because the starting pay is $40,000. Later it can go up to 80. And so this gentleman is obviously going to start later on in his career. The second thing I learned about happiness is we have to reach out and we have to take a chance on life. I was in a job that I was not happy at. I was selling software in Vancouver, but I was actually I've never said this, so if it sneaks out, Patrick Sutherland, I was already planning on leaving the company I was working for. But every year they took us down to Las Vegas for a big event. It was 3,000 people, and every year they had the awards banquet, and it was a huge event. The number one salesperson in the company got a brand new Porsche. Right? They already got paid, they got the commission, but they got a brand new Porsche. So every year they would have this 3-hour awards banquet. They would hire a celebrity to MC it. And that year I was at the back of the room sitting with people I had not met yet. And 7 minutes into this 3-hour program, the MC said something so horrible that they fired him on stage. They cut the microphone. The house lights came on. The band started playing, and the room got really, really awkward. And I was sitting in my chair thinking, wow, it would really suck to follow that guy. I don't know what they're going to do. And about 5 minutes later, over the PA system, a voice said, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry for what just happened. We fired the MC. He has left the building. And we wanted to let you know that we're going to restart the entire program in 15 minutes. And if anyone knows where Greg Kettner is, we need to talk to him immediately." Well, I didn't know why they were calling me out in front of 3,000 people. I thought, how much did I drink last night and who was I talking to? I totally thought I was going to get fired, so I didn't say anything. And that's the power of having friends who believe in you and believing in other people. About 2 minutes after that, my friend Trevor came running over from another table and said, "Hey, Greg, they want you to go do stand-up." And he hauled me out. He called me out in front of everybody. Now everybody knew that they were asking me to go up there and be the MC for this program. So Trevor hauled me backstage. I couldn't remember my name or any of my jokes, and they're wiring me up with a microphone. I said, "Hey, I'm Greg. I hope I'm not fired." And they said, "No, we heard you do stand-up comedy. We need you to go do 15 minutes so that we can restart the program and figure out what we're going to do." And so I remember standing behind this royal blue curtain, shaking. I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to say. They introduced me, and I walked out to blinding lights in front of 3,000 people. I looked for the center of the stage. I looked around and said, "Hey, everybody, I'm Greg, and I can't do any worse than the last guy." And right there, I had them. We were laughing, and we connected. When we connect, our hearts opened up, and they were so gracious and so kind. And it was one of the most amazing nights of my life, because I was doing stand-up comedy in Las Vegas, sold out crowd of 3,000 people. And there was no reason why I should have been up there. It happened. And so I did my 15 minutes, and towards the end, and here's the power of being happy and asking for what you want and getting up and getting out of your comfort zone. That year, if you hit a certain sales number, you got a $10,000 cruise through Turkey, Italy, and Greece. I did not hit my number that year, so I wasn't going to go on the cruise, but I was kind of helping out the company, and so I admitted it. My last 3 minutes, I said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't hit my number. I let the company down. I probably let you guys down, but I'm kind of helping the company out right now tonight. Is there any way I can get on the boat?" A gentleman from the front table stood up, walked to the stage, and I said, "Hi." And he goes, "Kid, you're on the boat." I had no idea who this guy was. So into the microphone, I'm like, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to club. I made the boat. Who are you?" And he said, "My name is Jacques, and I am the president of the company." So right there, I did 15 minutes of stand-up comedy in Las Vegas, sold out room. I got a $10,000 cruise for 15 minutes. So if my math is right, that's about $40,000 an hour. And now, 15 years later, I'm here on Zoom in my room here in Walla Walla. But what that taught me is that we need to work happy. We need to do what we love. I love to make people happy. I was good at selling software, but it really stunted my happiness, if you will. And so I took that lesson and thought, you know what? Let's start to change careers and find out what makes me happy, what drives me, and I can do that. So from there, I went and I started working with another startup company, and then that's where I ran into my now wife. I was doing comedy. We ran into each other, and now every day I get up and I get to inspire people to be happy. I get to work on my own happiness, but I absolutely love what I do. Not every day is a work happy day, but I also know how to restart those days. And typically my day starts with doing meditation, going to the gym, and reading. And I do that, and I try to do it before I even look at my phone. These things, as we all know, are not good for our mental health. But when I wake up, I know what my routine is. So for the first hour and a half, I put in the work. It just, you can't say, hey, I'm going to be happy or have a laugh or something good happens to you. It is life and stuff happens to us. But what I found and what I share with other people is if we work at being happy, we can be happier today than we were yesterday. We can be happier than we were last week. The goal isn't happiness because you just can't have a great day. You won the lottery, you just got married, you bought a new house, you birthed your baby or whatever. You're overjoyed and you're happy, but that fades. But what I'm trying to show to people is that we need to be happier. It's not just I'm going to get to happiness and then what? It's a continuation. So how do we be happier and happier? Here's another funny. This was by my house, just down the street, about a mile, or for you guys, 2.2 kilometers. But this gentleman here got a high score of 58 miles per hour. I'm not sure what that is in kilometers, but definitely higher than 58. Um, Short story long. I'm a stepdad, and 6 years ago, my wife woke me up and to the fact that my stepdaughter's dad, Grant, had taken his own life the night before. So 6 years ago, I never talked about mental health. I never talked about suicide. I didn't know much about suicide or mental health. And now, every time I get the opportunity when I speak to people, I let them know that we need to talk about life and what ails us, whether it's our family, it's relationships, money, whatever it is, because mental health is so important. And if we're not happy and if we don't have good mental health, everything else kind of cascades behind it. And so I like to tell people, just to reach out and ask people, how are you doing? And I'm not sure about you, but I've had this before and I've answered it this way. When somebody asks, hey, how are you doing, Greg? I'm like, good. And that's the end of the conversation. But I encourage people to ask that question again. When you ask a friend and they just give you oh, it's good. Ask the question again. You can say, hey, how are you really doing? I've got 5 minutes. Let's go for a coffee or let's go for a walk and just have a conversation. Because what I found by researching and studying more about suicide prevention and mental health, there's a huge array of different challenges in our lives. It can be anywhere from overwhelm or postpartum, or depression or anxiety or thoughts of suicide. So there's a huge spectrum. And if we have conversations and if we encourage people, to go therapy or go talk to your doctor or at least talk to somebody to help. And this next story really drives home the point that we don't know how, we don't have to know what to say. Like, I'm not a therapist. I don't give people therapy advice. I share what is happening in my life and what I do. But it's so important just to have these conversations. And about a year ago on Facebook, one morning, I wrote a post, 4 words, you matter to me. That was it. Really didn't get any likes, really comments. It was just you matter to me. A couple days later, I got a message in my inbox, and it was from a friend of mine, Kay, who I'd worked with 20 years before in Seattle when we were both in hockey. And she started off this long message by saying, "Thank you so much for your posts. They mean a lot to me, and I wanted to share specifically what they mean to me this week." And during COVID, she had, gone through depression, and she was going through a divorce. Her daughter wasn't doing well in school, and a whole combination of things led her to have a plan to take her life. And her plan was, she did a lot of trail running, and she was going to wake up and go running and run off a cliff, and that was going to be it for her. She would, get rid of all her thoughts. She thought it would be better for her family, and everybody. And she said that morning that she was going to go out and run. She was on Facebook. She saw my post, and we hadn't talked in 20 years. We've just followed each other through Facebook. And she said, "I read your post and thought, you know what? I matter to Greg. I'm not going to go running today." So as I reread the post with tears in my eyes, I thought, how cool is that I didn't even have to say anything. I put 4 words on Facebook, and one person saw it, and it mattered to them. So I quickly messaged her back and said, "Hey, please give me a call. I'd like to talk further." Come to find out, she wasn't able to find any therapist or get in to do some counseling. And so one of my friends, his wife, was a therapist over in the Seattle area. I called her. She reached out to my friend, and she found them one of her friends, a therapist, and she was able to get into therapy. And Kay is doing amazing. She's now dating another guy. Her kid is doing really well in school. But again, we need to have these conversations, and we don't even have to have a conversation. Like, it's awkward, right, to say, "Hey, how's your mental health?" That's a little bit brash or a little bit gutsy to do. But you can say to your friend or to your wife, "How are you really doing? How's your mental health? Are things stressing you? What's going on?" And then just be there to listen to people and suggest to them and say, "Hey, I go to therapy." And I tell people that as well too. My dad passed away a year and a half ago. I had never have gone through that, so I didn't know what it was like to go through something like that. So I started to go to therapy again to figure out what is best for me and how can I navigate this new stage in my life. So we always need to share, and sharing is caring. And when we, excuse me, when we talk to people about our lives, it allows them to open up and feel like they're okay to reach out and get the help that they need, and feel comfortable talking to you about it. So I always put this in here in case I start to tear up or cry on screen or on stage. But my mom didn't think this was so funny, but I did. But good moms let you lick the beaters. The great moms obviously turn it off first. So there's another laugh for you guys. Another way to stop chasing happiness and to earn it is serving others. I don't know about you or how many of you serve at a nonprofit or a church group or whatnot. But I started this group. It's called Men in the Middle in our town here in Walla Walla. Last night we had a pub night. So we all got together and just hung out. There's no agenda. There's no politics. There's no religion. It's just guys hanging out, being dudes, and talking about life. And the mental health conversations have organically sprung up. We've had 2 or 3 guys go to rehab for alcohol from this group because one of the guys in our group is a recovering alcoholic for the last 25 years. And so when you bond together, and there's a picture of us at the Christian Aid Center. Once a month, we go here and we cook dinner for 150 homeless people in our community. And the conversations that we've had about our kids, about our wives, about our careers, about money is awesome. It's basically free therapy. The gentleman in the middle with the hat on, and the goatee and glasses, that his name's Freddie. He came to our group. I guess it would have been in December, and let us know that he had cancer, stage 3 cancer, and he didn't know how to do a fundraiser or whatnot. And so our group got together. We did a GoFundMe, which raised $26,000. And then we did a wine event, a silent auction and a live auction around wine. And we raised another $35,000. So we were able to give this family $70,000 so that while he was in rehab over in Seattle, He was able to pay for his apartment. He was able to pay for food, transportation, and still pay for his mortgage here back at home. But that's the power of happiness. If you're having a rough day, the quickest way to turn it around is to go serve somebody. And so these guys are my friends. They're the rock when I go back to, other than my wife and my daughter. But if I'm having a rough day, I can reach out to any one of these guys. So serving other people is another way to find happiness. Now, here's my opportunity to thank you for being here. I have a resource sheet, both for happiness and mental health, different links on where to go and find therapy if you need to. There's links, there's HR approved comedy on there. But if you just take a quick picture with your phone, a code will pop up, and it's New Zealand for you folks. And then if you put your email address in there, I can send that resource sheet to you. Also, too, my calendar's in there, so if any of you have any questions about what I talked about today, feel free to reach out to me, and we can do a 15-minute phone call. And if you have questions about therapy or how to find somebody, I'm more than happy to walk you through that and what it's like and how to do that. And then also, too, there might be a couple of questions on the event today or my talk, because I use the feedback only for me internally to make my talk better, to make it more meaningful, and to give the outcomes that people are looking for. So your feedback will help make the next talk and the talk after that and so on even better. So if everybody's got a quick picture of that, I got the slide up at the end as well too. But if you want that resource sheet by scanning the code, putting the code in, and giving me your email address, that'll happen automatically. Here's another cartoon. If you've ever hated your job, talk to Mr. Toilet Paper. I think he has probably a worse job than all of us combined. And I'll leave you with this, and we're happy to do questions and answers afterwards. But I have found that what I do now, it's not really work, because I'm so passionate about helping other people be happy and talk about mental health. But when we do work, this was when I was doing stand-up comedy. Not sure if Norm Macdonald made it down to New Zealand, but another very famous comedian. He was on Saturday Night Live here in the States for many years. And I had an opportunity to work with him. And it's interesting because we all have jobs. I know we were talking, and somebody was saying that they were doing 7 people's jobs. So there's a lot of jobs that we have to do, a lot of hats we have to wear, and we have to be flexible. And this is kind of a funny story on how we have to be prepared for our jobs. So I was opening for my hero Norm Macdonald. It was a Thursday night. It was the room in the comedy club was packed. There was probably about 250 people. They'd all paid $75 to come and watch the great Norm Macdonald. Nobody knew about Greg Kettner. I just happened to be the MC. And if you haven't been to a comedy show, typically the MC will do 10 or 15 minutes at the top. He'll bring up the middle comedian who does about a half hour, and then the MC will go back up, do 5 minutes, so everybody can go to the bathroom, get a smoke break, get a drink, and then the headliner will go up and close the show with about an hour. And so it was a great show. I got up. It was a hot crowd. Like I said, everybody was there to see Norm. Got through the middle act, and then I was doing my 5 minutes before Norm, and typically you say your best joke, which worked, and it worked well. And then I turned to the audience. I said, "Hey, are you guys ready for Norm Macdonald?" And everybody got up and started clapping, cheering, standing ovation. And just as that was going on, the club owner came running on the stage and whispered into my ear. He's like, "Hey, Greg, you got to tell one more joke because Norm's not ready yet." And in my head, I'm like, "He's not ready. He's been doing this for 4. How is he not ready? He knows when he's going on stage." So I went back to the microphone. I said, "Hey, I just got word. I got to tell one more joke because Norm's taking a crap." And we all laughed. We're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he just said that." And we're like, "What? Why?" So I told him one joke, introduced Norm. He came up, did his hour. It was absolutely amazing. But here's the kicker. Afterwards, we're sitting in the green room talking about the show. And he's like, "Hey, Greg, it was fun working with you. What a great crowd." He said, "But just before you brought me up, the biggest laugh you got the whole night, but I didn't hear the joke. What was the joke?" And I said, "Well, the guy came out and told me you were in the can going to the bathroom, and I told him you're taking a poop. And Norm looks at me and goes, dude, I was. So here is a seasoned veteran doing his job for 40 years. He wasn't prepared. But just another funny story in how we can laugh at life, right? Stuff always doesn't work out the way we planned, or the exact way that others have planned it for us. But if we take the time to laugh, have a good joke, even if it's a poopy joke, life is so much better for everybody else. So to recap, what we shared today, or what I shared with you today, is stop chasing happiness. We have to put in the work, whether it's serving other people, doing our meditation, taking care of our bodies, taking care of our minds, and talking about people. And we just need to be more renaissance of talking to people, whether it's our kids or our spouses or our coworkers, because we never know what someone else is going through in the battle that they're going through. So we always need to be kind. So I want to thank you for your time, and back over to you. But if anybody has any questions about happiness or mental health or stand-up comedy, I'm pretty much an open book. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Greg. I have a question, something that you I think we kind of spoke about it, and you touched on it in the beginning, with the thought of being busy every day, and some of us doing 10 people's jobs, and the work of 10 people. There are points during the day sometimes where things just don't work out, and we become overwhelmed, or we can't get out of the thoughts in our head on how we messed up and why this happened. What is a tip or a couple of tips that you can give us to go, right, let's resolve this and move on and find some happiness, so we can deal with it and enjoy the rest of the day, rather than focusing on the one bad thing that happened?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It happens to me as well too. Sometimes a call doesn't go right, or something happens with a client, and you're just like, oh. It happened to me last week where I got up and it was a great day and things went sideways. And so what I know to do, I did meditation again. That didn't work, so I went and walked around the block for 20 minutes, and that seemed to help. Right? So when we get away from because we're on our screens a lot, way more than we were before. But if we can get out, get the fresh air, there's something about connecting with nature. So you can go for a walk. You can do breathing exercises, right? Short, simple breathing exercise that you can look up on YouTube, and it will reset the mind. The other thing that I love to do is, and obviously we have to be careful because it's 2025 with humor, but pull up on YouTube a comedian that makes you laugh, or maybe it's cat videos or whatever, but just 5 minutes of laughing will reset our brains. And so if you are struggling and you're just like, this sucks, but you have to make it through the rest of the day, try a couple of these different things, and I think it'll be able to restart your brain and put you in that good, happy mood again.
Cool. Thank you. I find videos of babies laughing is sometimes really helpful. They have this incredible laughter. Cool. Folks, open for you guys. If anybody wants to ask questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask Greg a question. Don't be shy.
Yeah, Donna, what makes you laugh, Donna? I can't see her on here, but
I
do you
know.
watch videos or stand-up comedy, or?
Yeah, I'll anything that's gonna make me funny. It depends on the mood. And there's times watching babies laughing at dogs is awesome. Or I have certain shows that I watch that I'll then look at the highlights of the funny things that happen, just to remind me of them. And it loosens things up a little bit. I'm also a big one of just taking my shoes off and going outside and walking on the grass. Just getting away, because there's times you spend too much time at your desk And I've had too many times when someone said, "What's the weather like?" and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've gone, I haven't been outside today.
Yeah. No, it's easy to do, right?
And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking out my window going, oh.
Yeah. And Shelley, yeah, have you done laughing yoga yet, Shelley? I haven't. I'm afraid that I can't get back off the floor if I do that.
I did do it a
have
few
you tried
years
that?
ago. A few years ago,
Okay.
yes, it's brilliant. Best medicine there is.
Yeah, and it's contagious too and universal, right? I mean, I've been in groups before where, well, obviously comedy clubs, you hope people are laughing at you, but just in group of friends, whether it's a silly dad joke, right? Laughing with people is contagious, and we feel better, and it burns calories. Not many, but it burns calories. Anybody else have questions? And again, if you need to get a hold of me, either email or the QR code. But if you have questions, I'm more than happy to jump on a phone call. We'll have to figure it out so I'm not up at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's your afternoon or something. But I just every day I'm so lucky, and even though every day is not a great day, but I would say about 90% of my days are good days. But I finally found what makes me happy. And I know, some people will come up with like, well, I'm stuck in this job and I need the money. I get that. But that still doesn't mean that we can't do things to be happy going into job instead of like, oh, dreading our boss or whatnot while we work on a plan. Maybe you're looking for a new job, right? And the best way to look for a new job is while you still have one. But we can still have the right mindset or frame of mind going into work. I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to let this person pull me down. And that alone, I've heard from other people and from myself, lifts me up, right? When I'm doing what makes me happy and doing the work. You just can't say, oh, I'm going to be happy, and it happens. It does take work, but it's fun work.
But here's a question: how do you help people who are just who seem to have got into that circle of negativity? Like I'm lucky enough to be to know a lot of younger people in their 20s, and I'm not sure what it's like around the rest of the world, but in New Zealand they're sitting there going, if I go to university, I've got all of this debt, I'm never going to be able to save up for a house, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, work is really, really busy and I can't seem to get anywhere, my boss isn't helping, and they're just like this. And personally, I feel that no matter what I say, I always get in trouble. I'm always wrong. It's like, stop being
Okay.
positive, stop being this. And it's like, how do you get them out of that as well as protect yourself? Because
Yeah.
sometimes that negative loop can be, after you've heard it for an hour, it's like, oh.
And you start feeling down. No, that's a great question. I don't know if I'm 100% right, but two things I will say is just trying to ask them, just to be their friend and to listen, not to give advice. And I'm still learning. I've been married 9 years now, and I'm still learning not to give my wife advice or fix it, but just, why do you feel like that, right? And try and be the positive person. But sometimes it's just, you can do as much, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Because science shows that our DNA, 50% of us are negative and 50% of us are positive. We're just born that way in our DNA. And the other 50% is things we can control, like the people we hang out with, the work we do, serving other people or whatever it is. But we can help other people do that. And sometimes it just doesn't work, right, Don? I mean, it can be something they don't want to be happy, but as long as we try and let them know that if they ever need something or someone to talk to or relate to, we're there for them.
Sounds right.
I don't know if that helps.
We just keep trying. Yeah. I think so.
Oh, Giora disappeared. Way to go, buddy.
He had to head off.
He just walked out on me.
It's all right. The rest of us are still here. Is there anybody else who's got some questions, thoughts, comments, recommendations for YouTube videos? Sorry, Sarah.
No, thanks, Donna. So Greg, I've got a question. So I work in an onboarding team for a business, so
Yep.
training our new staff. And often, people begin in the company really nervous, and we talk a lot about, like, with quiet groups, about like having psychological safety in a group.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some like tips or tricks for like a way to give like learners like that sort of permission to be a bit playful, to have a bit of fun? And like, how do you know that they've kind of accepted that ask as well?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it is, and I'm glad that you're asking this, because I think more and more people need to be on the onboarding and with mental health, right? Because onboarding is like, okay, here are your people, here's the training module, here's when you show up, here's how you get paid, right? But we don't worry about, well, how's your headspace? And so I think whether it's, a conversation that you have for everybody, like if you're onboarding a dozen people, you can be upfront. And this, I've seen this work time and time again, but if you have ever had a mental health issue in your life, I was speaking to a group, and the CEO came up to me afterwards, and he's like, this is very important, but I don't know how to talk about mental health. I said, well, I do this, so it is a little bit weird, but maybe you could try. I said, have you ever gone to therapy or counseling before? And he said, yeah. About 40 years ago, when I was in college, I struggled with taking tests. And so my parents found a counselor, and we figured out ways so that I wouldn't freak out when I was taking my test. Like, I would study, but then I would get to test and freak out. And it helped me. And he goes, some of those strategies I still use today. And I said, well, share that in your meeting, right? You're vulnerable. It's 30 years ago. It's not a big deal. And we had a conversation a week later, and he said, Greg, it was absolutely, I've never had so many people come up to me afterwards. And he said, in the next week, he had 5 of his managers come up to him and say, hey, if you have gone to therapy, I want to try therapy, right? So I think it's just sharing our own story. And it's, when I first started talking about this, I thought you were, either suicidal or going to a loony bin. I had no idea that there's a whole broad range, right? There's days that I get overwhelmed. That's part of mental health. And for me, I go out and I exercise again, or I take the afternoon off, or I go watch comedy or whatever it is. But I think, Sarah, I'd love to have, if you want, my email's there, but let's have a phone call, and I'd love to give you some more insights on how you can incorporate that, because it's most companies, at least here in North America, have employee assistance programs where you get 8 sessions for free or whatever, but 9 out of 10 people aren't asking for them because of the shame and the guilt. But when you have a one-on-one conversation, and somebody knows that, yeah, no, I lost my mom and I started going to therapy and this is what I learned. They're like, oh, well, therapy's not that bad. If Sarah's going, I can go too, right? So it's bringing the bar down and just having a conversation like that. Every time I speak, I talk more in the hallways after than I am on stage, just because people want to know, what did you do? How did you go? And 10, 15 years ago, I would have never gone to therapy. I'm a man. Why would I need therapy? I'll fix it myself. Well,